Hi, welcome to Yedidia Shofet.net and welcome to Pesach part number 2 regarding the laws of Passover. So we're going to continue with the halachot with laws concerning searching for CHAMETZ, otherwise known as BEDIKA CHAMETZ. Halacha number 1. The Torah states that the possession of CHAMETZ on Pesach is prohibited. Remember, we talked about what is CHAMETZ in the last recording in part 1. This is part 2. In other words, anyone who allows any chametz in his domain violates the commandment, chametz shall not be seen by you, and leaven shall not be seen by you in all of your borders, meaning 2 times, 2 violations. Consequently, the Torah commands us to dispose of all our chametz and leaven from our houses before Pesach. The text says, but on the first day you shall dispose of leaven from your house. But in the Talmud, it explains the first day means the day right before Pesach, Erev Pesach, the eve of Pesach. That's when you dispose of your chametz, as we will talk about more in depth. Number 2. The rabbis have explained that on the eve of Pesach, after the end of the 4th hour, meaning 4 hours after sunrise, approximately 10 to 11 o'clock, the eating of chametz is prohibited. And then during the 5th hour, until about 11 to 12, one may still derive benefit, one may sell it, but after that, any eating or any benefit is absolutely prohibited. Many authorities are of the opinion that these seasonal hours should be reckoned from dawn, meaning that you have 2 things. You have sunrise and you have dawn. Dawn is basically when the rays of sun begin to glow up the night. Sunrise is basically when you, according to the maritime calendar, is exactly when the sun cracks the horizon. However, this is merely a guideline, and every year a calendar should be consulted in order to determine the exact timings as to when a person can benefit chametz until, and until what time a person can eat chametz until. Number 3. Although searching for the chametz, which is known as BEDIKA CHAMETZ, could in theory be carried out on the 14th of Nisan, meaning the eve of Passover on the day, in the morning, rather we do it the night before for 2 reasons. 1, people are home, and when people are home, pretty much people can help. They could see it's easier, people can perform it all together. Number 2, the search has to be carried out by candlelight in order to facilitate discovery of chametz in any holes and any crevices. And at night, a candle offers better light than by day. Meaning, in order to show your efforts after you've cleaned the house. Remember, BEDIKA CHAMETZ is like the final sweep to see if there's any chametz left over after you've cleaned out your house. You take the candle and you look from crevice to corner to crack, any place where the kids would hide something, and you look for chametz. And since you can see it at night better with the candle, you should use the candle at night. Number 4. It is meritorious to search for chametz at the beginning of the evening. Basically, once tzet hakochavim happens, meaning about 20 minutes after sunset, then you should begin to look for chametz. Number 5. Once night has fallen, one should not engage in any work, any food, anything which is going to take his mind off of this task, which is commencing the search of BEDIKA CHAMETZ. Number 6. The owner of the house is responsible for carrying out the search. If the owner himself is unable to perform the mitzvah, then he has his wife do it. If his wife cannot do it, he gives it to his representative. Number 7. If someone has forgotten or has been prevented from performing this mitzvah on the required night, meaning the night before Pesach there was a lot going on, he should do it the next morning immediately, and he should not engage in any work or even Torah study until he carries it out. If it has not been done in the morning, it must still be carried out in the afternoon. That means no matter what, you have to take care of this. The risk of any consumption of chametz is by that time negligible, since you had all of this time in order to search and to remove the chametz. Number 8. If this mitzvah has not been fulfilled before Pesach, one is not allowed to do it on the festival itself. Meaning, you have to do everything before. If one finds any chametz during the first day of Yom Tov, it should be covered like with a pot or a pan or whatever it is until the nightfall. And then on Chol HaMoed, on the intermediary days of this holiday, you should take it and burn it. Which on Israel, it's going to be the nighttime, immediately the next night. But in diaspora, which you have 2 days, it's after the 2 days of the festival. Now we will begin the laws concerning the procedure of the BEDIKA. Before we talked about just the searching, now how do we do the search? Okay, number one. Before the searching of the CHAMETZ, all rooms must be cleaned. Don't just think you could just take the candle and start searching that night. You have to clean out your house the week before, the day before, whatever it may be. Number two, it is customary to place 10 pieces of bread around the house before performing this mitzvah. And make sure that you write it down so you don't forget where it is. It is advisable to wrap them up so that crumbs will not break off. Number three, according to some authorities, the reason for placing these pieces of bread is that when you make a blessing for BEDIKAT CHAMETZ, to find the CHAMETZ, and let's say you don't find anything, the blessing should not be in vain. So what do? They put out this bread, so definitely they will find something. It should be noted that in the event that one does not place pieces of bread out, he must still make the blessing, even if he doesn't find anything. Because nevertheless, it's not for the sake of finding, it's for the sake of searching. BEDIKA means to search. Furthermore, one who does not search one's houses properly, but merely collects these pieces of bread, has not fulfilled the mitzvah of BEDIKA. Number four, the blessing is Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kiddushanu B'Musada B'Tzivanu Al BIUR CHAMETZ, which means, blessed art thou, God, our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with His commandments and commanded us concerning the destruction of CHAMETZ. Number five, if for any reason one started the BEDIKA without the blessing, one may still say it as long as the BEDIKA is in the progress. If, however, one finished the BEDIKA, you don't need to say a blessing anymore. Number six, one must not speak between the blessing and the beginning of the BEDIKA, because this is all part of one action. When you eat food, you don't speak from the blessing until you eat the food. Rather, until you're done with the eating, that's when you can speak. So too over here. Furthermore, it is preferable not to speak until the search is complete. Number seven, a father can gather all his children in order to assist him in performing the BEDIKA. They should listen to his blessing, and they should say Amen, and each one of them should search in his assigned place. Number eight, with one blessing, one can search many houses or his work premises, meaning you don't have to go to each place and make a beracha. Number nine, after the blessing, you should not say Shechianu, as the BEDIKA is to prepare for the incoming of the festival. Therefore, the blessing of Shechianu, which you say by Kiddush, it covers also the entire mitzvah of the BEDIKA. Number 10. One should use a candle and not a large flame, such as a torch, because if you're going to use a torch, you're scared to move it around the house, and you will not do a proper job in cleaning, and people are scared to move it towards the walls. Number 11. During the BEDIKA, one should not switch off the electric light, as the greater the light, the better. Meaning, you should have the electric lights, but you should as well have the candles. Number 12. The Ashkenazim, they have a custom to use a feather to assist them with the removal of the chametz. The Sephardim, they do not have this custom. The feather was just in place for practical reasons to dust off any crumbs that are left over. Number 13. After the BEDIKA, all chametz found should be placed in a secure place until the next morning, just in case your kid or your pet doesn't want to wants to play with it. Now, next set. Laws concerning places that require searching. So we have to know where and what requires searching. Number 1. As a rule, searching must be carried out wherever chametz has been used or stored during the year. Consequently, all rooms in the house are required to be searched, including the attic or basement, where food or beverages can be stored throughout the year. Number 2, the search should cover places even where it is unlikely the chametz will have been brought. If it is possible that a child might have taken any chametz there, don't think that it's unlikely, and it may have happened. Number 3, care should be taken to search any playpen, cribs, and many of the children's areas where kids tend to hide their goods. Number 4, any chametz which is buried under earth or stones at a depth of 3 handbreadths, which is about a foot or more, is exempted from the search. However, bitul, which is the nullification of the chametz, is still required. Okay? Number 5, a synagogue building or yeshiva requires a proper search on the night of the 14th of Nisan, as people, especially children, take chametz to them. Before the search, the requisite blessing should be recited. Number 6, this is a new set of laws. This is the laws concerning the search for one moving home. Number 1, if one moves from a house owned by a Gentile to another house before Pesach, one is not required to carry out the search in the first house, even though one knows that there's so much chametz there. The reason is that since one has no intention of reoccupying the former residence, we may assume that ownership of any chametz in that previous house has been renounced, meaning he doesn't want it anymore. Number 2, if a Jewish tenant moves from any house without having carried out the search, and another Jewish tenant takes possession, it is incumbent upon the second tenant to perform the mitzvah. Number 3, if one sells one's house to a Gentile, the sale taking effect on the morning of the 14th of Nisan, some authorities are of the opinion that no search is required, since, by virtue of the sale, one is fulfilling the mitzvah of disposing one's chametz, because he's getting rid of it as well. Number 4, if one rents out a house from a Jewish landlord on the day of the 14th of Nisan, and one does not know whether the search has been carried out or not, if the owner is available, he should ask. If the owner is not available, and he is known to be an observant Jew, one may assume that he has carried out the search before lending or renting it out. Next set of laws. Laws concerning the search for those away from home. Number 1, if one appoints a representative to carry out the search, it is for the latter to say the blessing, meaning the representative should say the blessing. Number 2, if one intends to go away from home before the 14th of Nisan, and there's no representative to carry out the search, one is required to perform this mitzvah by himself, even if it's going to be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before. The foregoing applies if one leaves within 30 days of Pesach, basically from Purim. If one is left more than 30 days before Pesach without the intention of returning until after Pesach, no search is required. And all one has to do is he has to do the bitul chametz, which is the nullification of this chametz. If one leaves before Pesach, but is certain of returning a day or two before the eve of Pesach, one need not do the BEDIKA before going away. Number 3, it is understood that if one intends to return during Pesach itself, the search must be carried out before one leaves. Alright, so basically it's very simple. If you're going to be back before Pesach, you should search when you come back. But if you don't have enough time, you should search before you leave. And if you leave before 30 days, you don't have to worry about it. Just do the nullification of the chametz. Now, the next set of laws, which is the nullification of the chametz. Number 1, immediately after the search, the following declaration is to be made. Now, what are the words? Kol chamira deika bishuti dela chazite udla biarte diftil veleve ka'afra dara. Let all manner of leaven that is in my possession, but which I have neither seen nor removed, be void and considered as dust of the earth. With this declaration, one must bear in mind that the chametz is worthless and has no value. Even your 3,000 bottle of whiskey is worthless. This is known as bitul chametz. Number 2. This formula of nullification is in Aramaic, and one must, therefore, make sure that one understands it. If one does not, he must say it in a language that he understands. Number 3. The nullification must be repeated the next morning, meaning not just that night, but also the next morning. This is because after the declaration made at night, one may still eat chametz in the house. So he might, by some way or another, he might leave chametz in the house for breakfast the next day. Number 4. The declaration of nullification by day, which differs slightly from that of the night before, is as follows. Kol chamira deika beshuti, dechazite la chazite, dibiarte ula biarte, liftir v'leve kafra da'ara. Let all manner of leaven that is in my possession, whether I have seen it or not, that's the difference, by the way, right here, whether I have seen it or not, and whether I have removed it or not, be void and considered as the dust of the earth. Number 5. After breakfast, any remaining chametz should be burnt. The burning should be done no later than the end of the 5th hour of the day. This time should be determined from an annual calendar, as I said, from dawn. Number 6. It should be noted that the nullification in the morning should be recited after the burning of the chametz. This is because one is responsible for burning one's own chametz. And if the declaration of nullification has been uttered before the burning, the chametz will no longer be his. Basically, he has to first burn what he owns, and then whatever is not burnt, he should make the nullification. Number 7. In the event that the owner of the chametz is not at home to make the declaration of the nullification, he should make it whenever and wherever he may be. If his wife knows that he will not do it, she may do it in his place, because the wife has a share in the husband when it comes to the chametz and the livelihood. Number 8, a single woman who lives on her own, or a widow, or a divorcee, are required to burn and to nullify their own chametz. Number 9, should the owner be somewhere where the time differs from that of the location of the chametz, he should follow his own local time. Although this is permissible in our opinion, it is advisable that the earlier of the two times should be followed. Understood? Now, next set of halacha. That is laws concerning the sale of chametz to a Gentile. In the past, there was in general no custom among the Sephardim to dispose of their chametz temporarily by selling it. Every household made sure that every item was either eaten or given to a Gentile long before the 6th hour. Indeed, some authorities were against the procedure of selling the chametz, but it has now become the accepted practice to dispose of any actual chametz by selling it. As the laws of such sale are complicated, one should not handle the sale oneself, but one should ask one's rabbi to be the agent of the sale. Each individual should sign a document which authorizes the rabbi to sell the chametz on his behalf to a Gentile. If one cannot get to the rabbi personally, one may instruct him by telephone to sell one's chametz. Number 4. When one sells one's chametz, one must state its location. You have to say where it is. According to Rabbi Yosef Karo, one need not state the approximate value, but merely agree a price of sale or even a minimal amount. Others, however, are of the opinion that the approximate value should be stated. In addition, one should specify the different types of items sold. Some people go in great detail as to what was actually sold. Number 5, some companies whose business involves chametz include Jews among the shareholders. A rabbinic authority should be consulted as to how to deal with the sale of their chametz. Now this is very tricky, because if you are a shareholder in a chametz business, you have to understand what to do for the Pesach timing. Number 6, according to some authorities, one should not sell the vessels which contain the chametz, since If they have been sold when one repurchases them from a Gentile, after Pesach, one has to re-immerse them into the mikveh, as the law requires when one person buys new vessels from a Gentile. Number 7. As soon as Pesach is finished, the Gentiles should be asked to sell the CHAMETZ back. Sufficient time should be allowed to the rabbi to reacquire it before it is used. Number 8. One should not buy CHAMETZ after Pesach from a bakery or other food store of a Jew, if it is known that the shopkeeper did not sell his CHAMETZ. We're going to the next set of laws, and that is laws concerning the eve of Pesach. Number 1. Matzah should not be eaten on the eve of Passover, so that it may be more appreciated when eaten at the Seder table. However, cakes which are permitted for Pesach, fruits, eggs, fish, and the like, may be eaten on Passover Eve. In addition, it is permitted to eat matzah ashira, enriched matzah, basically matzah made with fruit juice or with eggs, and not with any water, as this kind of matzah is not strictly considered to be proper matzah, and this kind of matzah cannot be used to fulfill one's obligation by the Seder night. Therefore, as much as you eat of it, you're not taking away from the appreciation of the matzah at night. However, one should not eat enriched matzah after the 9th hour of the day, so you can retain a sufficient appetite for the matzah at the Seder. Number 2. Some people have the custom not to partake of matzah at all after the festival of Purim. Others from Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and others for 1 week before Pesach. It is important that one should adhere to one's custom, as this has been in many circles. Number 4. Any firstborn male, whether of his father or his mother, should fast on Passover Eve. It is customary that while the child is a minor, the father fasts instead of him. The fast commences at dawn. Number 4. If the firstborn participates in a seudat mitzvah, basically a festive meal to celebrate the performance of a mitzvah, such as circumcision or the completion of a tractate of the Talmud, he may break the fast. For this reason, many communities deliberately arrange to hold a siyum after the morning service on the eve of Passover. That concludes part 2 of the Pesach halachot. Remember, these are all very superficial halachot, but they will give you an understanding of what needs to be done for Pesach. God willing, tomorrow I will post up part number 3. Thank you.